Hello, this is Chad of Chadwick's Channel of Stuff, and for the first time, I'm stepping out from behind the camera or the iPhone and doing a little bit of a haul video from my recent trip to Son of Monsterpalooza. I'm going to go through categories of stuff. So, first off are the stickers that I get. I do a lot of journaling, mostly when we do travel and when I'm watching movies or TV shows at home. So I like to put stickers on the pages in between all of the notes that I'm taking over this, that, and the other thing. So some of the stuff I got, the first, this was from the very last day though. I, my wife's grandmother, who passed a few years back, she loved Betty Boop. When I saw these, I had to get them. One, this was Betty Boop, Bride of Frankenstein. We got Betty Boop as, I guess, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, something of that nature. And I was going to get a Freddy Krueger Betty Boop, but I opted instead to get this Speed Racer one because I was a Speed Racer kid. Other stickers, in no particular order. I like these. These are a set of kitty cats that are, you have Michael Myers, Freddy, and the Jigsaw puppet. These are great. The Siamese cats from Lady and the Tramp doing the red rum from The Shining. And one other one worth mentioning, I went by Terry Wolfinger's and I got this for a special trip that's coming up. More on that in a travel video should I make one. Next up we have the books. In order from what I spent the most to what I spent the least. First up, this was a real find. To the Devil, a Daughter by Dennis Wheatley. A little while ago, I published or posted on my blog an ad for the Hammer film adaptation, which is the last Hammer film, horror film they released. The last movie they released, I think, was The Lady Vanishes, and then they just kind of declared bankruptcy and closed up shop. But the adaptation of this, which starred Natasha Kinski, Christopher Lee, and Richard Widmark, and was directed by Peter Sasdy, really infuriated Wheatley to no end, and he refused to have them do any other adaptations of his work. Not that it mattered much, because they didn't make any movies after that except for The Lady Vanishes. Then I got this, the novelization of Premature Burial. This is one of the Corman Poe cycles, and the script for that film was written by Charles Beaumont and Ray Russell. Beaumont also wrote the Corman Mask of the Red Death. He also wrote many great episodes of The Twilight Zone. One of the most famous probably being The Howling Man, based on his own story. Another one was Perchance to Dream. And then there was the less than stellar Queen of the Nile, I believe that title was. Ray Russell, I know because he wrote Mr. Sardonicus, the short story that became the William Castle film. He also wrote a novel called Incubus that was adapted into a film called The Incubus, which starred John Cassavetes. It's directed by John Howe, who did Legend of Hell House, and came out in 81 or 82. And other than that, I think he was like the fiction editor for Playboy magazine, I think. I'm not too sure. This was a impulse buy because there's been a lot of talk over at the Book Graveyard and other places about Gothics, and I'm going to make an embarrassing admission here. I've never seen an episode of Dark Shadows. I've only seen the Tim Burton film with Johnny Depp in the... oops, I just hit my mic. But I decided to get this. It was reasonably priced. And let's see, what did I find out about this? Marilyn Ross isn't actually, it's a pseudonym for William Edward Daniel Ross. And he wrote a whole bunch of these. And yeah, he said here, Maggie Evans visits the Collins family graveyard and is transported back in time to the year 1880. Then she awakes, an amnesia victim at Collinwood she barely recognized. Uh, at, all that seems familiar are the house itself and the family's guest, Barnabas Collins. And I was like, okay, this sounds good. Somebody goes to the graveyard, goes back in time, and meets that eternal vampire, Barnabas Collins. I'm up for it. I got this one. This was an impulse. The Wave. Check out that cover. This was like, and I read the back cover. Water. Jonathan Kane is afraid of water. An engineer for the government, Kane has discovered that a major dam is on the brink of collapse. Once it bursts, a deadly domino effect will be set in motion. From the Columbia River to the Pacific Ocean, a chain of dams will cave in, forming the biggest wall of water mankind has ever seen. But then Kane and reporter Charlene Daly discover some frightening facts that point to a mysterious conspiracy. While they try to make them known, the first dam bursts and the wave becomes a reality. Its speed, 100 miles an hour. Its height, 600 feet. Its destiny, to smash everything in its path, including a nuclear generator in the hands of environmental terrorists. Pesky terrorists. Unless Jonathan and Charlene can escape their would-be assassins, the entire Pacific Northwest and the Pacific Ocean itself will be contaminated for the next 500,000 years. Yeah, that's a book. First published, I think, in like 1979. This is a reprint from Playboy Press, 1981. But yeah, this looks like Seattle's about to become underwater. This was a really great find. This is one of Fred Saberhagen's, or Saberhagen? Potato, tomato, tomato. Dracula file books or Dracula tape books, and I've been wanting to read these for a while, but it's cost prohibitive. But this gentleman was selling it for a reasonable price, and so I picked it up. And I love the thing back here: a meeting of the minds or a mingling of blood. The resemblance is uncanny. The crime is bizarre and unlikely. Somewhere in the mazes of fog-bound London lurks a being more terrible than any Sherlock Holmes has ever faced. And when they meet in a pact of blood and honor, the foundations of Her Majesty's Empire will tremble. The game is afoot indeed. At last, the story can be told. And yeah, Sherlock Holmes and Dracula, fisticuffs, foggy London, hammer and stuff. Yeah, I'm down for that. I'm going to read that, definitely. Sometime between now and the year 2035. And then the last book here is The Rig. Man, look at that. That's a 70s cover, man. Look at that. You could just hear the disco. I read the back and I was like, oh boy, death on wheels. They're the cowboys of the New West. The truckers piloting their tractor trailers coast to coast, keeping in touch by CB radio. Good buddies, most of them. Larry Hatcher was a trucker. He had a wife, kids, the usual problems. Then one day, the wife and kids were gone, slaughtered by a maniac masquerading as a trucker. And Larry's life became a nightmare, dominated by just one thought: to get revenge on the driver of the big white rig. Big white rig. I was like, oh yeah, Moby Dick, great white whale, Ahab. And then a few minutes later, it was like, or Jaws, the great white shark, and Quint and everything. But yeah, this was from 1978, and I love this. Don't examine a trucker too carefully. By Jane Stern. Quote from Jane Stern from Trucker, a portrait of the last American cowboy. Right in there. Yeah, you can see that. So, again, that sounds like cheesy fun. We're going to move on to movies now. I got, the first thing I bought was this 4K UHD upgrade of Asylum from Severin. It's probably my favorite maybe, of the Amicus Portmanteau anthology pictures. But it was directed by Roy Ward Baker, who's who did a lot of work for both Hammer and Amicus in the late 60s and early and throughout the 70s. Some of his best, or my personal favorite, is Quatermass in the Pit. But he also did The Vampire Lovers, The Vault of Horror, and now The Screaming Starts, the infamous Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires, as well as I think Milton Subotsky's last production, which was The Monster Club, which wasn't Hammer or Amicus, but might as well have been. Robert Bloch wrote the script for this, and they adapted 4 of his short stories. The back here is Herbert Lom's segment, which was Mannequins of Horror, which was a short story that originally appeared in Weird Tales, December 1939. The other one, the cover, is from Frozen Fear, which appeared in Weird Tales, May 1946, and creeped me out as a heck as a kid. The Weird Tailor, probably my favorite segment. I always hear Peter Cushing's, "Is the proprietor in?" That was published in Weird Tales in July of 1950, and I believe it was reprinted in February of 51. I'm not too sure about that. And then there's another one, Lucy Comes to Stay, which was from January 1952 edition of Weird Tales. Next, movie-wise, we have The Resurrected, written and directed by the late, great Dan O'Bannon, starring Chris Sarandon. This is an adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's The Case of Charles Dexter Ward, with Chris Sarandon playing the ill-fated Charles Dexter Ward. It's a pretty good movie. It's actually really good. O'Bannon did a lot of great work in the late 70s, early 80s with writing Alien and a whole bunch of cult classics from writing, directing Return of the Living Dead, and a lot of other stuff. And next movie up was an impulse buy. This is Island of the Fishmen. This was released in the United States under the title Screamers, and it hyped that you would see a man turned inside out. There were no men turned inside out in the film. They were fishmen. They had gills and scales and fins, I guess. And so I think Jim Wynorski or someone else was hired to shoot insert footage that featured Cameron Mitchell and some extras or stuntmen with schmutz all over, red gooey schmutz all over them, so there could be a shot of like, oh, they're inside out, It's a pretty infamous advertising campaign, but I got this because it's Island of Fishmen. Why wouldn't I? And it was directed by Sergio Martino, who has directed such films as Torso, The Great Alligator, Slave of the Cannibal God, They're Coming to Get You, whoever they are, the cult classic with Michael Sopke, 2019, After the Fall of New York. I guess New York fell sometime before 2019. And one of the best giallo titles of all time, Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only I Have the Key. This was an impulse buy. I have it on DVD. I have the box same from Blue Underground, but I wanted to get it on Blu-ray because there is on our television the Blu-rays look better than the DVDs, and I wanted to upgrade this to the Blu-ray, and this was reasonably priced, and so I got it. Dead and Buried. It's a movie that always comes to mind when we go up to Mendocino on our trips, and that and Humanoids from the Deep and Cujo, and of course Murder, She Wrote, because whenever we go up there I always have to go, hey look, there's Jessica Fletcher's house. We're coming to the end here. These are magazines. This was an impulse buy, but it was a reasonably priced issue of Cinefantastique that covers The Wicker Man with Sir Christopher Lee on the cover and the titular Wicker Man. It's a great film if you haven't seen it. Probably one of the best folk horror films ever made. Um, I got it because I saw this one that I could not pass on. This is a look at the four early films of David Cronenberg around the time Scanners came out, for you can tell. And I think this actually has the photo that is commonly used in a lot of early articles about him, because he came into Mick Garris's office and he took a picture leaning over some film canisters covered with fake blood that had the titles, or the American titles, of his films. They came from Within, Rabid, The Brood, and Scanners. And I got that, and that one caught my eye. And then I saw The Wicker Man, and I'm like, I gotta have The Wicker Man. That's a great flick. This was one that I saw and I went back and got. It's available on Internet Archive if you want to read the interview with John Carpenter. But The Fog is my favorite John Carpenter film, and this is one of those things where it's like I bought it for the cover. I've read the interview, but you know, it's The Fog, man. It's my favorite John Carpenter movie. We got another impulse buy. When I was going through, I saw this House of Hammer. That's got The Creeping Unknown on the cover, which is actually the Quatermass Experiment, the first Quatermass movie, and the first House of Hammer issue that I have in my collection. I did a double take on this when I was going through, because I opened it up and I'm like, is that Doug McClure? That looks like Doug McClure. And lo and behold, this is the Marvel adaptation of the Amicus production, The Land That Time Forgot. And this is what really sold me, because they got bonus and features from the mind-boggling movie blockbuster. I did see, and this is just like one of those nostalgia things. I was able to see The People That Time Forgot, which was a sequel to The Land That Time Forgot. I saw that on the big screen at the Alameda South Shore. And I also saw Warlords of Atlantis, which were made basically by the same creative team that made this film. And I was like, I've been thinking of revisiting Edgar Rice Burroughs' work because of just, rereading some, or going back to Tarzan, John Carter of Mars, and Peculadar, and whatever this series was. And then the final one, I almost skipped over it, but I just couldn't let it go. I had to. This is the movie magazine for Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. Star Trek V is my favorite Star Trek movie. Not the best, but it's my favorite. I love it, unabashedly. It's got a great Jerry Goldsmith score. And for all of its faults, and it has many faults, I'm aware of that. I love Lawrence Luckinbill as Sybok, and this really does have some of the best banter and interaction with the Trinity of Kirk, Spock, and McCoy of all of the films. It really does also look and feel a lot like an episode. Unfortunately, it looks and feels like an episode from the notorious third season, which had like Spock's brain and whatnot. But 2 episodes to watch before watching this movie, if you choose to. One would be, I believe the title is This Side of Paradise, which had Jill Ireland in it as first season. And then the third season, The Way to Eden, which had Charles Napier as a singing hippie. And the hippies take over the Enterprise, hijack it to take it to a planet they believe is the Garden of Eden. So, and then you have this movie. Again, it's my favorite. I know it's not that good, but I love it. And honestly, my wife will attest that every time we go to Yosemite, I always point to El Capitan. I go, hey, that's where Captain Kirk was climbing. Just like when we go through Oakland, we go by the Piedmont Theater. That's where I saw Jaws for the first time. We've been married 15 years, and she's probably heard that 30 times each. The very last thing was actually a piece of art I got, because the face of this channel is Sam, my cat, and this looks a lot like Sam. And I'm like, okay, I got it. It was reasonably priced, and I got it. And that, my friends, is my haul from Son of Monsterpalooza. I kind of I tried to keep myself within a budget. I think I did. But the thing is, as I told Tanya when I got home, I said what's the difference between a pound of feathers and a pound of cement? Nothing. I bought a pound of feathers instead of a pound of cement. Anyway, I don't know if I'll do this again. I might not. We'll see how it plays out. But we're going to go back to Son of Monsterpalooza for some more video and some pictures that I took. Most of this is from the costume contest and a few more from the vendor's room. But until next time, stay scared and be good to each other.